Okay, yeah. It is. It's better when they come in person. I prefer in-person classes, but we live in a modern day and age. We had COVID 5 years ago. People just, it's easier for them to go online. But not for me, not for me. And I think there's a lot of students that agree with that. But you know what? We still cater to those who want to do it online. You still get the material, folks. You still get the best. You still get the best. So again, cigarette is adding the period authenticity. Small detail that it's more than you would think. It does a lot more. It's in the 1960s, everybody smoked. Your mom, your daddy, your baby, your dog, whatever. Everybody was smoking in the 60s. Okay, that's just the way it was. Cigarettes were consistent. They were just so consistent. I mean, you could smoke in restaurants, you could smoke in bars, you could smoke at school, you could smoke in the house. Most people smoked in their own homes. This is just, before the cigarette companies got in trouble. And so they appear in almost every war photo out there. You go through, I hope you guys did research. Remember, I told you last time to do some research on some wars, more specifically the mythology behind wars, but I'm sure in your research you saw pictures with soldiers or people just during the war smoking, right? Because it was just a consistent thing. Everybody smoked. And so the cigarette, it anchors the era. It gives Zach a certain amount of physical behavior, right? So it kind of touches on the psychology of it all. And it just adds realism. It reinforces to Zach that he's trying to look calm, right? It reinforces that Zach is trying to look calm by smoking, even though he isn't. And so that's been used in a lot of films before. So then the next human beings that we really see after that is the fishermen, right? In that next scene, they're introduced into this cultural distance. So when the fishermen silently watch his car pass by, something really, really subtle happens. We learn that Zach is the stranger here. He is the stranger, not them, right? This flips the normal Hollywood perspective quite dramatically. In most American war films, Americans dominate the environment. We're a dominating force. We have the biggest military force. We go over countries, we just screw them over, and we have the biggest military force. We have all the nukes. So of course, America is a dominating force. We established the World Trade after World War II. We're a dominating force. Whether you like it or not, America just is. I'm not saying I support it or not, but that's just the way it is. And so, especially back then, we really needed to establish this. So, but here the locals are observing him quietly. They're observing him quietly. America's not dominating necessarily here. It's kind of a no-fire zone, peaceful zone. That's why we picked Vung Tau, because there wasn't a lot of stuff going on in that part of Vietnam. It was fairly peaceful, despite some militia mythology where this film kind of jumps in. But the locals are observing him quietly and patiently, almost anthropologically. Oh my goodness, I can't speak, forgive me. Anthropologically. There we go. Almost anthropologically, reinforcing that Zach is entering someone else's world. That's what the big key takeaway from here is. He's being introduced into someone else's world, entering someone else's world with not much of a clue of how he's going to survive, what he's going to do, the direction he's going to take. And then, so our next scene is the town introduction. It shows the war. Again, it's showing the war, the town itself, without explaining. When Zach enters into town, we see these French, old colonial buildings, and we see the convoys, American jeeps kind of parked, scattered. We see Vietnamese houses, and we see children, start to appear, right? And they're in poverty-stricken children running around, shirts ripped and everything. And this is visually telling the history of Vietnam without a lot of dialogue. That's what's going on. It's showing the colonial past, which is very, very intrinsic, and the American military presence at the time, and the local civilians living their lives despite this chaotic time of history. And so it's 3 layers of political history through environment alone, right? Those are 3 layers of political history shown just through the environment. And that's, again, wonderful storytelling. So then our next scene is the Sea Dragon Bar becomes the story's hub, the main hub, right? Setting this whole thing off. Now, the bar is extremely important structurally because bars in films, just in general, usually serve as social, crossroads and rumor centers, places where gossips and things happen. And it also they show up as political neutral zones, which is very much relevant to this scene. And they're just places where strangers meet, right? People from all over the world can meet each other at a bar. It's a universal sign. They function in westerns. Think about how they function in spaghetti westerns, right? Think about how they function in spy movies. And most importantly, think about how they function in war films. In fact, those 3 war films I mentioned earlier, right? Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter, and Once Upon a Time. Go check those out. Or really just those 2. Apocalypse Now and Deer Hunter. Because those are actually war films. Check out how the bar functions in those films. So the Sea Dragon Bar will become the social stage of the movie, right? Where myths are going to be told, alliances form, and where we are then introduced to Gus. If you remember, Gus is our amazing fake protagonist. Excuse me. And Gus's false legend begins at this bar. So then, the doorway pause is creating the tension, right? Zach stops before he enters, opening this makeshift door, and it creates this classic cinematic beat, if you will. And it's signaling that crossing the threshold moment, right? We're crossing the threshold. Before he opens the door, he's just a traveler. And then when he opens it, once he opens that door, right, he becomes part of the story. It's completely solidified. It's a very symbolic moment, and he's entering the social ecosystem of this island, of this town, this community. And that's further established for when he walks in, right? All the heads of the people that are in the bar turn around and stare at him, right? And it's just a lot of older folks, locals, right? Maybe a few young cats in there trying to, get lucky by getting drunk and meeting a gal or something. And it's really, that technique in itself, it's one of the oldest, most effective cinematic moves. Again, I referenced spaghetti westerns. That happens a lot in spaghetti westerns, let me tell you. When every head is turned straight towards a new character. And, it shows that something unusual has entered the room. It instantly creates the tension that we need. And it's signaling that Zach will be noticed. Right? Wonderful. It's showing right off the bat that throughout the film and in this moment, Zach will be noticed, and that his presence will change things. It's going to change things in the environment and in the social ecosystem of the community. Excuse me. So, the whole scene in itself establishes the film's tone, right? The tone becomes very, very clear at this point. It's a quiet, observational, atmospheric, slightly surreal, where things are not rushed, right? We don't rush into things, because that's going to give your audience whiplash. Or it's just going to give them brain rot. Let's be really honest, right? so people watch more than they speak. And this prepares the audience for what is about to be a very deep dive into psychology and human behavior rather than action and spectacle, right? We're setting them up to look out for that psychology and to study the human behavior rather than this, war, crazy action, spectacle thing going on. And so, and then even more important than that, it sets up the Gus subversion, right? Because our next scene is going to be Gus, which we're going to have to do a whole breakdown of that scene too, so I can only go through one scene at a time. I'm sorry, folks. We only have so much time, it's a crazy thing. But this sets up Gus's subversion. The bar entrance leads directly into the next major narrative, introducing Gus Fring. And this is so important because, the audience is primed now. They're primed and ready to believe that this tough, mysterious guy, Gus Fring of the bar, he's going to be the hero. He's going to be the hero of the movie. But of course, as I told you, that subverts the expectation that Gus is not the hero. Rather, he's the comedic relief of the film. But he's a ghost of kind of a hero cinema. Usually he's this ghost hero that cinema glorifies. That cinema glorifies, right? This mysterious enigma. And so, right, this opens up the audience for that reversal, that take back. And so there you go, folks. I hope you took some notes of that. Again, we will put the new scene in Canvas. I know a lot of you folks have had a lot of problems with Canvas. I'll just go ahead and announce it, and that's fine. I've had a lot of issues on my end with Canvas as well. Canvas is a platform that, it's kind of like gambling. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so I've been personally giving people my email and my phone number, just in case, so you can text me or email me, and I will personally send you the details, the scenes, and what will you, and then that way you can get the information you need. So I'm not saying don't rely on Canvas. Please, still use Canvas. It's how the curriculum works. We need it. We really need it. But if it's not working, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm your best friend. I'm your best friend for this class. I'm not a Gus friend. But, come to me after class. I'll help you with all of that. So, that's all I have for you guys today. That is part 3 of Vietnam Dom. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm glad that we could jump into the next part of Vietnam Dom, because man, what a cool film. And my team has really come together to make something really nice. So here we go, folks. Thank you again. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Jimmy. Yeah, so here, let's go over it again. Here's the email.